Sol Rise Station hung quietly above the blue curve of Earth, its polished metal reflecting sunlight like a second small moon. People on the surface called it humanity's first city in the sky. For the people living inside it, though, engineers, diplomats, scientists, it was simply home. Among them was Darren Holt, a 30-year-old systems engineer who always walked a little too fast, talked a little too much, and believed problems were puzzles waiting for the right idea. He was not a hero, not a leader, and not someone who enjoyed attention. He liked machines more than arguments, and circuits more than politics. But today, somehow, he found himself caught between two people he cared about, both staring at him with expressions sharp enough to cut metal. On one side stood Aria Vance, his girlfriend for the last 2 years. Her brown hair was tied back, her eyes bright with focus and frustration. Aria was a xenocultural researcher, which meant she spent her days studying alien customs, languages, and emotional norms. She loved puzzles that involved people, not machines. She believed that if humans wanted peace in the galaxy, they had to understand others first. On the other side stood director Leora Kess, Darren's boss, smart, disciplined, and famous for expecting nothing less than perfection. She wore her silver directorate badge like a blade strapped to her chest. She was leading the Human Expansion Directorate's newest project, one that was so classified, Darren hadn't told Aria a word about it. Until yesterday. And now both women wanted answers. The small briefing room felt too quiet, too neat, too bright for this kind of confrontation. Darren wished the walls would open up and let the cold vacuum pull him outside. It would be easier than this. Aria crossed her arms. Darren, I asked you one thing. Don't hide research from me. And then I find out you're involved in a highly restricted diplomatic initiative? Her voice shook, not with anger, but with hurt. Leora stood with her hands behind her back, calm but cold. Mr. Holt, need I remind you that directorate projects are not to be discussed with unauthorized civilians, even if those civilians are romantically involved with you? Darren lifted his hands helplessly. I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break rules or trust. I was trying to help both of you. That's the problem, they said in unison. Both women glared at each other, surprised but not amused. Darren winced. Aria took a step closer, her eyes searching Darren's face. You can't do this. You can't work for someone who thinks diplomacy should be led by the directorate alone. My research proves that alien cultures respond better to shared leadership. You know that? Leora lifted one brow. And you cannot assist someone whose methods are, let's say, idealistic to the point of danger. The directorate needs focus, not creative chaos. Creative chaos? Aria repeated, offended. Darren felt his stomach twist. This was not how he wanted his day to start. Leora continued sharply, Mr. Holt, your skill is vital to the directorate's initiative. We need someone who understands both advanced engineering and basic alien communication frameworks. That's why I recruited you. But I cannot have divided loyalty. Aria added, and I can't be in a relationship where secrets are treated like normal conversation. If you want to keep working under Leora's authority, then maybe we need to reconsider things. Her voice softened at the end, but the meaning hit Darren harder than any blow could. Both women looked at him, and then, at the exact same moment, you have to choose. The words echoed across the room, bouncing off sterile metal like a cruel test. Director Leora said, choose your loyalty. Aria said, choose what matters to you. Darren blinked. His throat went dry. He was a problem solver, not someone who made emotional decisions under pressure. And this wasn't just about work. It wasn't even about romance. It was about the future, Aria's, Leora's, his own, and maybe humanity's place in the galaxy. He inhaled slowly, trying to calm his racing heart. He looked at Aria. She cared for him deeply. She challenged him, laughed with him, and pushed him to understand emotions he often ignored. Her work was beautiful, messy sometimes, unpredictable, but always guided by compassion. He looked at Leora. She trusted him professionally. She valued his skills, respected his ideas, and believed humans could rise to become leaders on the galactic stage. Working under her gave him a chance to help shape the future of humanity. Choosing one meant losing the other. Choosing one meant betraying something important. He felt something inside him tighten, a small spark of stubbornness that he had carried all his life. Humans always believed they had to pick between paths, but Darren never accepted that. Machines didn't choose between wires, they connected them. Systems didn't choose between outputs. They balanced them. Why did people assume life worked differently? He exhaled. Then, in a voice steadier than he expected, he said, "Why not pick both?" Silence. Arya froze, eyes wide. Leora stared at him like he had spoken in an alien language. Darren continued carefully. "I'm not refusing to choose. I'm saying the choice is wrong. Arya, your research matters. Leora, your project matters too. They're actually linked. You both want better human-alien cooperation, but you're working separately, and sometimes against each other. What if you didn't?" Arya blinked. "You're suggesting we work together?" Leora frowned. "You are aware that directorate projects do not simply merge because an engineer has a romantic crisis?" Darren nodded. "I know. But hear me out. Arya's work explains alien emotional expectations. Your project is focused on building a human-led council for interspecies diplomacy. Those things need each other. If humans want to lead, we need to understand. If aliens want to trust us, we need to show that leadership doesn't mean domination." Arya hesitated. "That sounds ideal. Too ideal." Leora added, "Or too naive." "Maybe," Darren said. "But humans are good at impossible things. We've always been. Why not try to build something new? Something that makes both of your works stronger. If we combine efforts, we could create a model that helps avoid cultural mistakes before they happen. A framework based on both empathy and structure." Arya's expression softened a little. "You really think that could work?" "I think it could be the thing humanity needs most right now." Leora crossed her arms, but her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She wasn't dismissing the idea, she was calculating it. This suggestion breaks several operational norms. "Yes," Darren admitted. "But norms can be changed. They're not laws of physics." The director's lips twitched slightly, not a smile, but not disapproval either. "You believe merging a civilian research project with a classified directorate initiative is possible?" "Only if we try," Darren said. "Only if we stop treating each other like competition. We want the same outcome, cooperation between humans and alien species. Shouldn't we be allies instead of opposites?" Arya watched him quietly. "And you want to stay in this relationship too?" Darren looked at her with the same honesty he used when debugging a system, clear, simple, and sincere. "Yes, I love you, but I also love my work. I don't want to lose either." Her shoulders lowered slightly. "Darren, I didn't mean to push you into a corner. I just didn't want to be kept in the dark. And I didn't want to break rules," he replied. "I was stuck between you two, and I thought I could manage both on my own. That was a mistake. I should have been honest earlier." Leora tapped her fingers on the table. "Your idea may be reckless, but it is intriguing. Cooperation between departments has been difficult lately. If your proposal could convince the Council that such integration is useful, it may change everything." Arya turned toward her. "Are you actually considering it?" "I consider everything that has potential benefit," Leora said simply. Darren let out a slow breath. The tension in the room eased, but did not disappear. This wasn't a victory. It wasn't a solution. It was only the beginning of a very big, very complicated possibility. But it was enough to stop the ultimatum. He wasn't forced to choose, at least not yet. There were 1,000 obstacles ahead: bureaucracy, cultural misunderstanding, professional pride, emotional tension. Any one of them could break the fragile agreement forming in that room. Still, humans had a history of turning fragile ideas into strong realities. That thought gave Darren courage. Arya stepped closer and gently took his hand. "If we're doing this, we do it honestly. No secrets." Darren nodded. "No secrets." Leora gave a firm nod as well. "I will discuss this with the Directorate Council, but be prepared. This idea will face resistance." Darren smiled faintly. "Good. That means it's important." The director actually allowed a small, amused breath. "You engineers always think problems are opportunities." "Someone has to," Darren replied. As the meeting ended, the three of them walked out of the room together, not united, not fully trusting, but taking the first steps toward something bigger than any of them realized. Solrise Station continued to circle Earth, unaware that a single conversation had just planted the seed of a revolution, one that would soon reach across species, cultures, and the stars themselves. The next morning on Solrise Station began like any other. Soft lights brightening in the corridors, quiet hum of life support systems, and the smell of fresh steam drifting from cafeteria doors. But for Darren Holt, the day felt heavier, thicker, like the air itself was waiting to see what he would do next. He walked quickly toward the directorate wing, still reviewing the notes he had scribbled during the night. His small apartment's desk was covered with diagrams, cultural charts, half-written explanations, and at least 5 empty teacups. He had barely slept. His mind had been too full of possibilities and worries, because now, after yesterday's conflict, he had made a bold promise to create a collaboration between two people who barely trusted each other. And this morning, he had a meeting with his boss, Director Leora Kess, to explain everything clearly. He entered the directorate lobby, a large open space filled with quiet foot traffic, floating digital screens, and security officers watching everything with calm, sharp eyes. Darren took a deep breath and stepped inside Leora's office. The director sat behind her desk, studying several holographic reports at once. Her face showed no anger, no stress, only full concentration, the same expression she had even during emergencies. That calm always intimidated Darren a little. Without looking up, Leora said, "Mr. Holt, I trust you have something more structured to present than last night's emotional speech." Darren swallowed. "Yes, Director. I prepared a framework." "Good," she said. "Show me." He placed his tablet on her desk, projecting a clear 3-layer model into the air above them. Leora leaned back, surprised, not visibly, but her eyebrows lifted, which for her was equal to a gasp. "Explain," she ordered. Darren nodded. "This is what I'm calling a tri-branch diplomacy framework. It's based on 3 things humans are good at: building, adapting, and connecting." He pointed to the first layer. Branch 1, human governance structure. This is your part, Director. The Directorate provides organization, clarity, and leadership. Humans are confident when we have a system. Leora nodded slowly. Reasonable. He pointed to the second layer. Branch 2, xenocultural understanding. This is where Arya's research becomes essential. Her work explains how alien species communicate emotionally, how they show respect, fear, trust, and disagreement. Leora narrowed her eyes. "And why is that necessary?" "Because most diplomatic failures happen before the conversation even starts," Darren said. "Our body language, humor, or tone can offend aliens without us meaning to. Arya's research shows how to avoid those mistakes." Leora tapped a finger against her desk. Continue. Darren pointed to the third layer, shaped like a bridge connecting the first two. Branch 3, Adaptive Integration. This is my part. We use technology and communication tools to create a shared space where alien and human norms can meet in the middle, a space where neither side feels overwhelmed. He paused. Think of it as a cultural translation machine, but for behavior, not language. Leora stared at the model silently. Then she said the words Darren didn't expect. This is ambitious. Darren blinked. Is that good? It is rarely good, Leora said, but it is sometimes necessary. He waited nervously as she studied every detail. After a long minute, she asked, "And what role does Ms. Vance play in this? You mentioned her research, but you have not explained how she fits professionally." Darren nodded. "I propose she joins as a consultant to the directorate, temporarily. Her insights will support the cultural aspect of the project." Leora gave a short, soft exhale. "You understand the political challenge? Many officials already think we rely too much on civilian researchers." "That's exactly why she's needed," Darren said, his voice firm with unusual confidence. "Because humans can't lead the galaxy with just rules and plans. We need understanding. We need empathy." Leora studied him carefully. "You have strong opinions on this for someone who usually avoids political discussion." "I do," Darren admitted, "because this project affects Aria, and it affects me, and it affects humanity too." Leora's eyes softened by a fraction, almost invisible, but Darren noticed it. "Very well," she said. "I will allow you to prepare a preliminary proposal for the Directorate Council. If they approve, Ms. Vance may be invited to join." Darren let out a slow breath of relief. "Thank you. But," Leora added sharply, "if this fails, the blame will fall mainly on you." He nodded. "I accept that." She ended the conversation with a curt nod. Darren stepped out of her office with a mixture of excitement and fear buzzing in his chest. Step 1, completed. Meanwhile, Aria Vance's doubts. Across Sol Rise Station, Aria sat in a quiet observation dome, staring through a transparent wall at Earth below. Her data tablet lay untouched beside her. She wasn't angry anymore. She was confused. Darren loved helping people, but he often forgot that people had emotions, not buttons and switches. His plan, choosing both sides, sounded beautiful, but unrealistic. She knew how political the directorate was. She knew how strict Leora Kess could be. And yet, Aria loved the way Darren believed in impossible solutions. Humans had that odd courage, the courage to try things that made no logical sense at first. She sighed. "Maybe I should trust him," she muttered softly. Her device beeped. A message from Darren Holt. "Meeting today? Need your help for step 2. She smiled unknowingly. "Of course you do, Darren." Step 2. Getting Aria on board. Darren and Aria met in a small cafe near the education sector. It wasn't fancy, just warm lights, comfortable chairs, and the smell of sweet bread floating in the air. Darren arrived first, fidgeting nervously. When Aria sat down across from him, he gave her a hopeful smile. "I talked to Leora," he said. "She's willing to consider a partnership." Aria raised one eyebrow. "Really? Director Kess? The woman who schedules her breakfast with military precision?" "Yes," Darren said, excited. "She wants us to prepare a joint proposal, something that shows how your research and her project can work together." Aria leaned back, studying him. "Darren, are you sure this is not too big? Too complicated?" "It is big," he admitted. "But humans do big things. You always said understanding aliens was important. Leora always says human leadership is important. They don't realize they're trying to achieve the same goal." Aria exhaled, her frustration melting into curiosity. Fine, she said. Explain your plan. Darren showed her the tri-branch model. Arya listened carefully, then slowly started to nod. This could work, she whispered. It respects alien values while keeping human structure. And it gives humans a real chance to lead cooperation instead of forcing it, Darren added. Arya stared at him fondly. Sometimes you surprise me. He scratched the back of his neck shyly. I try. After an hour of discussion, Arya finally said, Okay, I'm in. We'll do this, but we do it properly. Darren grinned. Great, because we have a meeting with Leora in 2 hours. Arya choked on her drink. 2 hours? You said you were in. Darren replied with a shrug. She groaned, but she didn't back out. Step 3. The first trial. Meeting. 2 hours later, the three of them sat in a conference room. The atmosphere was heavy but calmer than yesterday. Arya came prepared with research charts. Leora came prepared with structured questions. Darren came prepared with hope and a nervous heartbeat. Leora began, Miss Vance, Mr. Holt has explained your potential contribution. I want to hear your version. Arya nodded. Director, your project focuses on forming a human-led galactic council. That requires trust from humans and aliens. My research helps identify cultural risks that could break that trust. She showed a chart. For example, the Rellan species interpret human smiles as aggression, but the Velen interpret slow speech as disrespect. Humans can easily misunderstand these signals. Leora examined the data. These are serious concerns. Yes, Arya said, but avoidable, with proper cultural integration. Darren added, that's why we need all three parts of the framework to work together. Leora slowly nodded. This is surprisingly coherent. Arya blinked. Was that a compliment? No, Leora replied. It is an observation. But Arya smiled, because that was Leora's version of a compliment. For the first time, something like cooperation, soft, uncertain, but real, appeared between the two women. Step 2, completed. Step 3, beginning. The first spark of respect. As the meeting ended, Leora said, I will present this preliminary idea to the council. If they approve, we will begin pilot tests involving alien representatives. Arya's eyes widened. Aliens? Already? Yes, Leora said. We cannot delay. The galaxy is changing faster than we expect. Darren felt a wave of excitement and fear. Aliens. Real cooperation. A project that might change history, and all of it started because he refused to choose between two people. As the three walked out of the meeting room, something strange happened. Arya and Leora exchanged a brief look, not hostile, not annoyed, but respectful. Darren's heart lifted. Maybe humans really could connect what others thought impossible, and maybe, just maybe, this crazy plan of his might actually work. The next 7 days on Solrise Station passed in a blur of preparation, planning, and nervous energy. For Darren Holt, the days no longer felt like separate hours. They blended into one long, buzzing mission. Because the Directorate Council had approved the pilot program, and that meant real alien representatives would arrive on the station in less than a week. It was the first time in Darren's life that he needed 3 different alarm clocks just to force himself to sleep. The calm before the chaos. On the morning of the alien arrival, Darren stood in the central conference hall, a wide open chamber shaped like a half circle, with a view of star-filled space stretching across its main window. Arya Vance stood beside him, reviewing her cultural notes again for the 10th time. Director Leora Kess walked around the room, checking the seating arrangement like she was solving a math problem. Darren held his tablet with shaking hands. Arya noticed and nudged him lightly. Relax. Just breathe. He gave her a weak smile. I would if my heartbeat wasn't trying to escape my body. Arya laughed softly. You're the one who said we should do this. Clearly I don't make wise decisions under stress, Darren replied. Leora approached them with her usual controlled stride. Mr. Holt, Miss Vance, the alien shuttle will dock in 8 minutes. Prepare yourselves. Arya nodded politely. Darren nodded nervously. Then Leora did something unusual, something Darren had never seen before. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Confidence, Mr. Holt, she said quietly. This program was your idea. Stand behind it. Darren blinked in surprise. Thank you, Director. Leora withdrew her hand immediately. Do not misunderstand. If this fails, I will be exceptionally disappointed. Arya smirked. That is her way of encouraging you. The three of them stood together, an unexpected team formed by accident, conflict, and stubborn human hope. Arrival of the delegates. A chime echoed through the chamber. Alien shuttle docked. Delegates approaching. Solrise security officers stood ready, not with weapons, but with scanning tools and translation panels. No one wanted this event to feel threatening. Darren straightened his posture. Arya exhaled deeply. Leora folded her hands behind her back, her expression unreadable. The chamber doors slid open. 3 alien representatives entered, each from a different species, each carrying centuries of history and expectation on their shoulders. 1. Ambassador Veller of the Velental, gentle, with silver skin and a calm, flowing movement. Their species valued soft speech and slow, meaningful gestures. 2. Envoy Ralek of the Raylan Shorter, with dark scales and glowing blue eyes. Relans interpreted smiles as threats and preferred blunt, direct communication. 3. Observer Tira of the Halen, a being with translucent patterns across her body, shimmering like floating ink. The Halen communicated partly through sound and partly through emotional resonance, the hardest for humans to understand. The 3 aliens stepped forward. Arya immediately noted their postures. Darren immediately noted their nervousness. Leora immediately noted the political weight of the moment. Arya bowed slowly, the respectful greeting for the Velen. She kept her face calm and neutral, the safe approach for the Relin. She lowered her emotional intensity, the stable approach for the Halen. Darren tried his best to do the same, but mostly he felt like a malfunctioning robot. Still, he copied Arya's movements carefully. Leora greeted them with firm, formal clarity. On behalf of the Human Expansion Directorate, welcome to Solrise Station. Ambassador Veller nodded gently. We appreciate the invitation. Cooperation between species is never simple. Ralek spoke with sharp directness. We hope this is not another human attempt at controlling interspecies communication. Tira said nothing, but her shimmering slowed, a sign of watchfulness. Leora replied without hesitation, This is a test of understanding. Our goal is not control, but cooperation. Arya added softly, Humanity knows we have much to learn. Darren swallowed and said, And we're here to learn together. To everyone's relief, the aliens accepted this answer. The first session, chaos in slow motion. When the meeting began, the problems began too. Not violent problems, not dangerous problems, just confusing ones. For example, problem 1, humor. Darren made a small joke while introducing himself. So if anything breaks today, it's probably my fault. Humor was normal for humans, but the Velen interpreted jokes as dishonesty. The Relin interpreted jokes as disrespect. The Halen interpreted emotional tones differently. So, in the first 5 minutes, Darren accidentally offended all 3 species at once. Arya jumped in quickly. He means he is responsible for the technical parts of the system. Humans often use humor when they feel nervous. Darren's face turned red. Very nervous. The aliens relaxed slightly. Problem 2. Seating arrangement. Leora had arranged the chairs in a circular pattern to show equality. However, the Rellan species saw circles as symbols of conflict. The Halen saw circles as symbols of privacy. The Velen didn't like turning their backs toward windows. Arya whispered urgently to Darren, "Move the chairs! Move them before Leora notices." Darren scrambled to rearrange 9 chairs into a soft triangular shape. Leora noticed, of course, but Arya quietly explained the cultural reason. The director nodded once, accepting the correction. Problem 3. Communication pace. Velen delegates preferred slow, thoughtful speech. Rellan delegates preferred fast, direct statements. Halen delegates preferred emotional consistency. Humans preferred everything at once. The meeting slipped into confusion often, like a malfunctioning translation device. Yet every time it did, Darren found a way to patch the confusion. A new slide, a clear diagram, a quick definition. Arya adjusted the emotional tone of the conversation. Leora kept the structure from falling apart. Slowly, painfully, the chaos found order. A human breakthrough. 2 hours into the meeting, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Veller asked, "Humans seem unusually determined. Why?" Leora answered with careful diplomacy. "Because our species is growing. We want a stable role in galactic cooperation." Ralek added sharply, "Many species want that. Few deserve it." Darren inhaled deeply, and before anyone could stop him, he said, "Humans are not perfect, but we're trying, and trying is our strength." Everyone turned to look at him, even Arya and Leora. Darren continued, voice steady. "We don't give up when things look impossible. We make mistakes, but we fix them. We don't always understand other cultures, but we want to. That's why we're here." His sincerity was raw and simple, unpolished but genuine. Ambassador Veller tilted their head. "Humans value effort strongly." Tira's shimmering light brightened softly, a sign of emotional warmth. Even Ralek seemed to soften. "Your honesty is unusual," Leora added quietly. "This is precisely why Mr. Holt suggested this cooperative model." Arya nodded proudly. "Because humans work best when we build bridges, not walls." For the first time since arrival, all 3 aliens relaxed. The tension didn't vanish completely, but something shifted. A beginning. A spark. A tiny seed of trust. A moment of unity. Hours later, the meeting finally ended. Everyone was mentally exhausted, even Leora, though she didn't show it. As the aliens prepared to leave for their temporary quarters, Tira paused in front of Darren. "You," she said in her soft, echoing voice, "speak with open emotions. Many humans hide. Why don't you?" Darren blinked. "Because if I hide everything, no one can understand me." Tira nodded slowly, as if considering something deep. "This is unusual, but helpful." Then she left. Ambassador Veller approached next. "Your model is imperfect, but so are all beginnings. We are willing to explore further." Ralek approached last. "You are less annoying than expected." Darren wasn't sure if that was a compliment. Arya whispered, "From a Rellan? That's basically a love poem." Ralek grunted something that might have been laughter or indigestion. Finally, the aliens left the hall. After the meeting. The moment the doors closed, Darren collapsed into a chair. "I think I died 3 times," he groaned. Arya laughed. "You did great." "You offended 3 species," Leora corrected calmly, "but you repaired all 3 incidents quickly. Acceptable performance." Darren rubbed his face. "I'll take it." Leora looked at both of them with a rare expression, one that almost looked like pride. "This pilot program may actually succeed," she said softly, "because of the 3 of us." Arya smiled. "Because humans are strange enough to attempt the impossible." Darren nodded slowly. His chest felt warm, not from stress, not from fear, but from hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could build something the galaxy had never seen before, a model of cooperation based not on power, but on understanding. A model only humans would be stubborn enough to try. For 3 days after the first meeting, the atmosphere on Sol Rise Station felt lighter. The aliens stayed in special ambassador quarters, each decorated according to their species' comfort levels. Humans, impressed by the success of the first session, moved through the corridors with a quiet sense of pride. And Darren Holt, who had accidentally become the bridge between humans and 3 alien cultures, finally slept a full night for the first time in weeks. It didn't last. On the 4th morning, trouble arrived so suddenly and so unexpectedly that it caught everyone unprepared. The unexpected message. Darren woke up to an urgent summons from Director Leora Kess. The moment he entered the Directorate communication chamber, he saw her standing stiffly, her expression more serious than usual. Aria Vance was already there too, pacing in circles like a storm waiting to happen. Darren frowned. What happened? Why do you both look like the station is about to explode? Leora pointed toward the main holoscreen. We received a message from the alien delegates. Aria stopped pacing and faced Darren. They think humans insulted them. Darren blinked. What? That's impossible. Who insulted them? Aria replied with a pained expression. No one. That's the problem. It's a misunderstanding. Darren felt his stomach drop. What kind of misunderstanding? Leora tapped the panel and the message played. Ambassador Veller's gentle voice sounded hurt. Envoy Rollick's voice sounded sharp. Observer Tira's emotional shimmer pulse signaled distress. Together, the message said, Human representatives showed disrespect during the first session. We must reconsider our participation. Darren froze. That can't be right. We were careful. We followed Aria's instructions. What did they misunderstand? Aria sighed. Humans didn't do anything wrong. It's a cultural problem. Leora crossed her arms. Explain. Aria took a deep breath and began pacing again. After the meeting, the Directorate shared a small promotional summary with other human sectors. It included a picture of the delegates. Darren raised an eyebrow. Yes, I saw that. It was a nice picture. No, Aria said firmly. It was a disaster for aliens. Darren blinked. What? Why? She pulled up the image. A simple group photo. Leora standing tall and formal. Aria smiling warmly. Darren awkwardly half-smiling. The 3 alien delegates slightly behind them. A harmless photo for humans. A cultural violation for the aliens. Aria pointed at the formation. Look, humans in front, aliens behind. Leora frowned. That is standard group composition. Exactly, Aria said, for humans. But for the Velen, standing behind someone means you are being treated as inferior. For the Relin, standing behind someone means you are being pushed out of the decision. And for the Halen, she sighed. Being behind a human face in a photograph means their emotional presence is hidden. They see it as a denial of identity. Darren's hands went cold. So we accidentally told them they were unimportant. Yes, Aria whispered, without even knowing. Leora exhaled slowly. This is unfortunate. Unfortunate, Aria snapped. This could destroy everything. Darren swallowed hard. We need to fix this. Aria nodded. We do. Fast. Leora straightened. Prepare for a meeting with the delegates in 1 hour. You two must help me correct this. Darren nodded nervously. Aria nodded firmly. The fate of the program hung by a thread woven by misunderstanding. Preparing for the most important meeting yet. During the next 60 minutes, the 3 humans rushed to prepare. Aria reviewed cultural notes and emotional cues. Leora constructed a clear apology structure that didn't sound weak or defensive. Darren built a visual presentation showing the new seating and photo protocols for all future events. The room was filled with quiet urgency. At one point, Darren whispered, "Do you think they'll forgive us?" Arya paused her pacing. "I hope so." Leora answered in her calm, strict tone. "We will not rely on hope. We will rely on clarity." But Darren could see the tension even in her composed expression. This wasn't just a setback. This was a threat to everything they had built. The crisis meeting. The delegates arrived exactly on time. Ambassador Veller's movements were slower than usual, a sign of hurt. Rollick's eyes glowed with irritation. Tiara's shimmering was dull and uneven, confusion mixed with discomfort. The atmosphere was thick, heavy, almost painful. Leora stepped forward first. "Delegates, thank you for meeting us so quickly. There is a matter we wish to clarify." Rollick folded his arms. "There is no need for clarification. The disrespect was clear." Arya gently stepped forward. "Rollick, may we explain? The image you saw does not have the meaning you think it has in human culture." Ambassador Veller tilted their head. "Explain." Darren opened the presentation. In humans, standing in front of someone during a picture does not mean superiority. It simply means you were positioned closer to the camera. It has no power meaning. Tira's shimmering flickered. "Humans do not place emotional meaning in picture positions." "No," Darren said honestly. "Not usually. Humans don't think about social hierarchy when taking photos. We sometimes don't think at all when taking photos." Rollick snorted. "This does not surprise me." Arya sighed but continued. "We didn't intend disrespect. We truly didn't know this was a cultural offense." Leora stepped forward. "We accept full responsibility for the misunderstanding, and we will correct it immediately." Ambassador Veller's silver eyes softened a little. "Corrections are meaningful?" Tira asked. "What will change?" Darren switched slides. "First," he said, "all future images will follow your cultural rules. No one will stand behind anyone unless they willingly choose to." "Second," Arya added, "we will always check with you before sharing cross-species pictures. Consent first." "Third," Leora said, "we will introduce a new cultural review procedure for all directorate events. Everything will be evaluated with alien norms in mind." The room fell silent. The aliens looked at one another. Darren's heart pounded. Arya held her breath. Leora waited, calm but intensely focused. Finally, Ambassador Veller spoke. "You apologize with sincerity," Rollick added, "and with solutions." Tira's shimmering brightened, signaling emotional acceptance. "We accept your explanation," she said softly. Darren nearly collapsed with relief. Arya let out a long exhale. Leora allowed herself the smallest nod of satisfaction. But the moment wasn't over yet. A human trait aliens didn't expect. Rollick leaned forward. "Humans corrected themselves fast." "Why?" Arya answered. "Because we care." Darren added softly, "Because we want this to work." Leora said with certain clarity, "Because cooperation requires courage, and humans are very good at courage." Ambassador Veller observed them thoughtfully. "You three represent human cooperation well." Tira said, "You support one another, even when you disagree." Arya and Leora exchanged a glance, surprised but touched by the observation. "And," Rollick added reluctantly, "you admit mistakes without shame. This is rare among leaders." Darren smiled a little. "Humans make so many mistakes that hiding them would be impossible." Arya elbowed him gently. "Not helping." Rollick's glowing eyes dimmed with amusement. "Humans are strange." "Thank you," Darren replied proudly. The aliens exchanged a few quiet words in their own languages. Finally, Ambassador Veller spoke. "We will continue with the cooperation program. This misunderstanding has taught us something important. What is that? Leora asked. That humans are willing to change, Veller said. That is a trait the galaxy needs. Arya's eyes softened. You're giving us another chance? Tira shimmered warmly. Yes, because you gave yourselves a chance. The tension dissolved, slowly but surely. Hope returned. Unity growing stronger. After the delegates left, the three humans sat down at the conference table. Arya put her head in her hands. I swear my heart almost exploded 3 times. Darren collapsed into a chair. I think my brain melted. Leora sat with perfect posture and said, We survived. Darren laughed. Meaning it's a good day. Arya looked at Leora. Director, thank you for letting us speak freely. Leora nodded. Your expertise was essential. Both of you. It was a simple statement. But coming from her, it felt almost like praise. And the moment carried something deeper, something unspoken but real. Respect. Between Darren and Leora, between Arya and Leora, between all 3 of them, they were no longer people forced to cooperate. They were a team, strange, mismatched, sometimes chaotic, but united. And this unity, this stubborn human ability to grow through mistakes, was exactly what the galaxy needed. The crisis had not broken their project.